Today we're going to go over proportions and how to solve them, and then determining if something is proportional or not. Proportions. So a proportion is an equation that states two ratios are equal. To determine if a pair of ratios form a proportion, check their cross products. So if I have A over B equals C over D, then A times D must equal B times C. So how does that work? Let's look at some examples here. So on the first example, I have 7 over 12 and 21 over 36. Okay, so like it says above, so if I cross multiply, these will be equal if it is a proportion, if they are proportional. So let's go 7 times 36 equals 12 times 21. Now we do the math. 7 times 36 is 252 equals 12 times 21 gives me 252 also. So since 252 equals 252, yes, these two ratios are proportional. Now let's look at the next example we have over here. I have 8 over 15 and 2 over 3. So I'm going to do the same thing. Go ahead and draw this out if it helps you. It'll help us go ahead and kind of remember what we're multiplying to find out. So I have 8 times 3 equals 15 times 2. 8 times 3 gives me 24 equals 15 times 2 gives me 30. 24 and 30 do not equal each other. So right here is the not equal sign. So the answer is no. Those two ratios are not proportional. Okay, solving proportions if I have a variable or an unknown. So right here I have X. You might have Y or N. It can be any letter. So any letters are variable or unknown item, okay, that we're looking for. So when you solve proportions, so when there is an X or an unknown, okay, in the proportion. When they're unknown. Okay, an unknown in the proportion. So first step you're going to do, we're going to cross multiply properly. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and cross multiply. So go ahead and draw the lines and then rewrite the problem. So X times 24 equals 8 times 15. Okay, that's what we're going to do. So now do the math. So we're still on step 1. We have 24x equals 120. Okay, step 1. So cross multiply. Right there is step 1 that we just did. Okay, so step 1. Step 2, let me grab a different color here. Step 2 is going to be to divide to solve for x. So if you notice how I have a coefficient and a variable here, okay, and I just have numbers over here. So I need to get 24 away from x, and 24x is the same as saying 24 times x. So because there's that little invisible multiplication symbol in there, that's part of the invisible math. I don't have to write it. So to go ahead, and we need you to divide to solve for x, or I guess here you could put unknown. Okay, because it doesn't always have to be an x. So if I want to leave the x, I have to divide both sides by 24. So divide that side by 24, divide that side by 24. Those will cancel out, leaving me just x equals, and 24 goes into 120 how many times? Okay, it goes in 5, so x equals 5. Now, we have solved for x, okay, so we know what our unknown is, but we have one more step just to make sure we're not missing anything, and that is to go back and check your answer. So to check the answer, we take what we have for x, so since we know x equals 5, here's the original problem, x over 8 equals 15 over 24. So rewrite the problem with this in for x. So 5 over 8 equals 15 over 24. And just like we did on the last slide, go ahead and cross multiply those. And let's see if it is indeed proportional. So we have 5 times 24 equals 8 times 15, and 5 times 24 gives me 120, equals 8 times 15 gives me 120. So yes, we checked our answer, and it is indeed correct. So you're going to follow these same steps every time you need to go ahead and solve for an unknown. I would make sure you color-coded your steps or highlight each step so you don't get confused and you work in the correct sequential order. Percent proportion. So percent proportion is a ratio that compares part of a quantity to the whole quantity, okay? And then the other part of the ratio shows the equivalent percent written as a fraction over 100. So a couple different ways you might see this. You might see this as something is so much of another part, okay, and that is going to equal the percentage of 100. Or you might see this wrote as part over whole, and that is also going to be a percentage over 100. We use the 100 because 100% of anything means total, right? If I have 100% of the cookies, I have all the cookies. So 100% is going to mean the total amount, all of it, okay? Whereas whole would be the total amount. So if I have, 10 of the cookies and there's only 10, I have the whole amount. So I have 100%, I would have the 10. Go ahead and add a little bit of highlighting around these because you want to make sure that we set up our percent proportions correctly, because if we do not set up the problems correctly, that's when we run into mathematical errors. Okay, here are two examples we have, and starting with the first one, 12 is what percent of 80, okay? So is of, again, like on the last page, so 12 is what percent of 80? 80 is the whole amount, and 12 is a portion of that, so that's my part over whole. Okay, and I don't know what percentage it is, but I do know the total of my percentage is 100. So I'll go ahead and put X for my unknown. Next step is going to be to cross multiply. So we have 12 times 100 equals 80 times X. It does not matter which of these you put first. As long as these two are on the same side of an equal sign, these two are on the opposite side, okay? So it doesn't matter, I could have done 80x equals this. Does not matter, it'll still work out the same. So now go ahead and do the math. 12 times 100 gives me 1200. 80 times x gives me 80x equals. Now I need to divide by 80. That'll leave me just x. Divide by both sides by 80. 80 goes into 1200. How many times? And you're going to end up with x equals 15. Okay, x equals 15, but I'm looking for what percentage. So what percentage? It would be 15%.